Okay, here we go. Now, I've been covering the whole conflict in Niger, Africa for a while now. This specific one for about a month, covering Niger, Africa for almost 2 years or so when I first started making YouTube videos. Now, a lot of people have said, well, you're only talking about the French military. You're not really talking about what's going on with the U.S. military. I kid you not. In this video, we're going to be talking about how the U.S. military is prepared to evacuate Niger, Africa, and really under no circumstance fight against Niger or really back the French in any sort of armed conflict. Now, something else I also want to mention is that I sort of want to go over a brief history of why the U.S. military is even in Niger, Africa, and also talk about why Niger, Africa doesn't even hate the United States. In fact, they've never even mentioned the United States. Now, what you need to understand, and thank you if you guys are joining live. Good to see all of you. One thing you need to understand is that the French have been in Niger, Africa for a very long time. Hey, we have a $2 donation. Another video right after toes the line. Hope you're doing well, and if you're in the U.S. military, thank you for your service. Now, I've been saying this for a while now, covering these specific stories. The U.S. military, for the first time, maybe in U.S. history, has managed to keep their mouth shut. Like, not giving away mission plans, not saying who's deploying to Niger. They've kept their mouth shut. And it's been working. In fact, as I've been covering these news stories, it's very hard for me to find anything about the U.S. military. So again, in this video, I do want to talk about why we're even in Niger to begin with. And if we have to leave, we have to leave. But it doesn't look like that's probably going to be happening because, again, Niger, Africa is cool with us. They don't have an issue with us. And I think it all makes sense when you start to put everything together. Now, again, as far as the French being in Niger, they've been there since 1898, so the colonial area type stuff, and they've had a lot of influence within Niger with the military, economics, even language, education, etc. Now, segue over, let's go ahead just to give you a reminder of what exactly is the vibe when it comes to the people of Niger and how they feel about the French. They want the French out of here. They never really talk about the United States. Hopefully we don't have to watch an ad, though. We probably will. This is what happens when you do this live.
A charged atmosphere in front of a military base in Niamey, where hundreds of French forces are camped. Niger security forces barricade the entrance, denying access to thousands of coup supporters.
Okay, so understand, you have tens and thousands of protesters in front of a French military garrison of about 12 to 1,500 French troops, which is really a sign of get the heck out of here. They're not doing this in front of U.S. bases that are in Niger. We'll get into that, and there are U.S. forces in Niger. But the first thing we need to understand is, what the heck is the mission in Niger, Africa? We went into Niger, Africa under the basis of fighting militant groups. You can't say the word on here, unfortunately, on YouTube. Let me find a better way to say this. Remember those really bad attacks that happened in 2001 that changed the world? Almost immediately following that, the United States sent U.S. Special Forces and other sort of groups into the Sahel region of Africa. But before we get into that, you need to understand the job of U.S. Special Forces is not necessarily to have a direct action role, which means dropping them off somewhere and taking out the enemy. The U.S. Special Forces, they can do that, but really the main job is to train partners, local militia groups, in hopes that these people will back the United States in case something does pop off. Remember that. The job of U.S. Special Forces, the big purpose of them is to train local militant groups or militaries in hope something pops off, and then they help the United States. It'll all start to make sense. Now, understand this. It's not only the U.S. military who's really, hey, we have a $5 donation. I've enjoyed your coverage of this. Keep up the great work. Hey, I love you. Thank you so much for doing that, and thank you for the donation. Love you. Something else you need to consider is that not only boots on the ground in Niger has been managing to keep everything together for the U.S. military, it's also back home. the media teams. This is how the United States has always talked about the coup in Niger. In fact, they're not even calling it a coup. They're saying it looks like a coup.
Yeah. Yesterday in Niger, the military council that toppled President Bazoum said he could face the death penalty if found guilty of treason. Is it still your position that this isn't a coup?
So as you know, we continue to assess the ongoing situation in Niger. We are hoping that this can be resolved peacefully and through diplomatic means. We've
Again, peace, diplomacy.
come very close to say again that this is an attempted coup. I think by all means, from State Department, from DOD, from other levels of government, we are trying to work through this in a peaceful manner.
Peace, working through it. The French tonality throughout this entire situation is, heck no, get out of our face. We're here to stay. We don't believe you're in power. ECOWAS is ready to invade and we're ready to help them. And the U.S. military is like, bruh, you need to chill out. Is it a coup? Yes. Are we calling it a coup for legal reasons and for multi-billion dollars of reasons and boots on the ground reasons? No, it's not a coup. Okay, so again, we're going to paint this entire picture. Now, I hate talking about this because this is so oversaturated on YouTube, and I hate that this is even a thing. The biggest publicity the U.S. military has ever got was this incident right here called the Tongo Tongo ambush of 2017, where U.S. Special Forces were operating in Niger on a routine convoy operation or reconnaissance operation. They were ambushed because generals and officers who were overlooking the operation were doing a horrible job with giving intel, and unfortunately we had U.S. members not make it. You can go ahead and look this up yourselves. Hey, we have a $2 donation. Thank you, Mr. Josh. Appreciate you. And unfortunately, people saw this and were like, what the heck are we doing in Niger? Why are U.S. troops not making it back? Why are we there? Also understand we're in the midst of the Afghanistan conflict. We have stuff popping off in Syria, but there was always good intentions with Niger, Africa, as far as the U.S. military in comparison to the French. But everything does come together. You had something called the Pan Sahel Initiative. The Pan Sahel Initiative, again, you're not taught this in the United States. No one even knows what the heck this is. I guarantee half of you have never heard this. I've never heard of this up until only a couple years ago, and I was like, why are we in Niger? The Pan Sahel Initiative, again, it's very hard to find information on why we went to Niger, but this is it. Hey, thank you, Cam, for the $2 donation. Much love. The Pan Sahel Initiative, according to a November 7, 2002, by the Office of Counterterrorism, the U.S. State Department, was a state-led effort to assist Mali, Niger, Chad, and Mauritania in detecting and responding to suspicious movement of people and goods across within their borders through training, equipment, and cooperation. Again, the initial intention of the United States and the mission in Africa, specifically Niger, was training, sending equipment, and cooperation within the region. Its goals support two U.S. national security interests in Africa, waging the battle on terror. Okay? That was the main reason we went in there. And this was almost directly after those really bad attacks that happened in 2001. Now, one of the countries listed was Mali. Of course, Mali has fallen to a coup, and the Russians essentially have taken over. But again, understand the U.S. had good intentions. I'm not going to sit here and act like the United States is everything they do is good. I don't want to have that bias, even though I even was a former U.S. soldier. I am a U.S. citizen. But in this particular case, the direct initial response was we need to go there and bring the fight there to the militant groups who are doing bad in the region, and it may affect U.S. soil and other partners. Something else to consider is that we have drone bases that help the people of Niger. These drone bases, we have two of them. The United States conducted Niger Air Base 201 in the city of Agadez. After the Nigerian government granted approval for the base in 2014. After several years of construction, the base began operations in 2019. This has since become the central hub of U.S. operations in Niger, shifting away from Niamey. The air base has 6,800-foot runway and cost approximately $110 million to complete. So again, we've put a lot of money and have invested a lot in Niger. Now, as far as the title of this video, if I keep it the title, the U.S. Air Force has said if they need to evacuate, you have to evacuate. After the 2023 coup, the U.S. Air Forces Africa declared its readiness to evacuate American drone bases in Niger as the situation heightens. Per U.S. military doctrine, you always want to have an air base or air assets wherever you operate. But again, in particular, when it came to these drone bases that were built, hundreds of millions of dollars, the United States was helping the people of Niger. Now, remember what I said at the beginning of this video. If you are watching this live, again, I am going to post this video. What I said was, the job of U.S. Special Operations is to train local militant groups. And in case something does pop off, they won't turn on you or will at least help you. Believe it or not, this was a massive reason as to why we were able to get into Afghanistan so fast, because we had regional partners in the area who welcomed us in and remembered what we did for them all the way back in the 90s and in the 80s. The guys who are in charge of the coup right now, sorry, I don't have a picture. I thought I had a picture queued. They were trained by the U.S. Special Forces, and they remember that. And I really do think a really big part as to why they're not wanting to kick the U.S. Special Forces out, or they're not really talking about the United States, is because they've worked with the United States and they saw the reason why they're there. As far as the French, they think there's way too much French influence and way too much French power when it comes to ECOWAS as a whole, and especially Niger. Now, again, it's very difficult to find any news on the United States as of right now, because the United States, it seems that they're staying radio silent. They're staying very, very quiet. Really, the big last piece of information I could find about boots on the ground were the Marines staying at the U.S. Embassy. I have a $2 donation. Thank you for that. Does Niger solo, though? Niger probably will be soloing if a conflict pops off. These U.S. Marines who are at the embassy happen to share a space with the French. I mean, the French are literally right down here, and the U.S. is right over here. Now, if the French embassy gets stormed, I don't know if those people are going to rush over to the U.S. embassy, and it might get a little conflicted. This is where I see there might be an issue where the U.S. might help the French might help the U.S., but again, I think the U.S. are going to do whatever it takes to completely stay out of this. From everything I've seen, the United States has always tried to be peaceful. They've trained Niger for a long time. Unfortunately, the people run the country now, but they've never mentioned the United States. The United States is ready to evacuate, though, without a doubt. If they need to evacuate, they need to evacuate. In my opinion, I just don't think they want this to turn into another Afghanistan where you have a total evacuation and all of this hard work in the last 20-ish years was ruined. Somebody said, why build a limited range drone base where it would be useless? So it's not useless. It's not limited either. It's used as the central hub for African nations to come into Niger. And again, I'm just doing a very surface level, quick mini history lesson, just so you guys understand that we haven't been there as long as the French, yet the impact of the United States U.S. military has really shown that Niger appreciates and appreciated what we've done for them, and they're sort of just leaving us alone, not mentioning us. Again, I want to give some props to the United States government for actually keeping their mouths shut. Again, I cannot believe we've gone this long. It's almost been 20-ish days to where we haven't said a thing. It is very difficult for me to find anything about the United States and Niger because they're keeping their mouth shut. But again, I'm going to be posting this live stream. If you guys want to help me out, this is totally free. Make sure to comment on the posted video. If you comment on the posted video, it helps boost the channel. I'm not sponsored, but it also helps boost the conversation, and then I can make more content from there. So I appreciate all you guys tuning in. I'm going to always try to update you as much as I can on the United States and really what's going on in Niger, Africa. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys go out and do a bit of a deep dive and see what you can find on the United States operating in Niger. It's quite complex and interesting, and it also kind of shows how U.S. Special Forces, in the long run, it actually ends up helping the United States in situations like this. So again, I'm going to be posting this live stream. Please comment on the posted video. I comment back. I talk to all you guys. I read the comments, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for everything. I love all you guys. I love doing this for you guys. It's quite an honor and a blessing. And I will see you guys later. Thank you for being here.